Happy Tuesday, Move Me Poetry community. I am excited to be your professor today, and I'm bringing you a poetic form that has some really strict rules, but yet allows your poetic muse to run free. I am talking about the Rimas Dissolutas, and it is a French form from the 12th and 13th century. And like I said, it has some interesting rules, so let's get looking at those so we can start writing poetry. First rule is that you're going to have at least 2 stanzas for this. Now, you may have as many stanzas after the first 2 as you want, or as your muse inspires you. But each stanza will have the same number of lines, the same syllable count for each line, and there will be no rhyming in each of the stanzas, because the next rule is each line in a stanza rhymes with that line for every other stanza. Okay? So that means stanza 1, line 1, end rhymes with line 1 of stanza 2, which rhymes then with line 1 of stanza 3. So there's no internal rhyming within the stanza. Each line of it will be an end rhyme on the corresponding line for that stanza. Now, what that looks like then, for an example, is that if I have a 4-stanza poem, the other 2 stanzas are on the next slide, okay? Line 1 is going to have 8 syllables and an A rhyme, and hence line 2 with the B, line 3, okay? So each line is 8 syllable count. Then stanza 2. Line 1 will be 8 syllables, but it will have the end rhyme A with the first line. Okay, and if you move on to stanza 3 and stanza 4, you have 8 syllable count, and then the A rhyme on line 1, the B on line 2, the C on line 3, and the D on line 4. Okay, now, if you would like to have an envoy at the end of that, you want to have half the number of lines and kind of use the end rhymes towards the end of the stanza. All right, so I'm about to share an example with you. This poem is my own poem that I wrote during my personal challenge of writing in different forms, and this happens to be one of them. The poem itself is supposed to be a little bit eerie with that. Now, I have the poem, and then I have the end rhymes next to it, okay? And the poem is called Stranger from Nowhere. Walking city streets, boots clicking, the concrete, no one knows his name. He is a stranger from nowhere. Even though he's been on these streets for years, his shadow removes all memory of songs gone missing. The air he exhales ignites flames in the words of their silent prayers. He can drop the stars like sharp beats onto their hands, piercing the small lifelines until erased, kicking the clock ahead. His rules, his game. There is not a color, beware for his magic. No trick defeats the way he knots the lines we call divine. Tomorrow's gone switching with a wave of his hand. The blame darkens their days. Silence declares a last breath. His smile stops heartbeats before they can catch their own fall. Watch for the stranger from nowhere, waiting, a ghost in the back seat. And you'll see that my envoy is just 2 lines because I got a 5-line stanza, and I used the CD rhyme scheme to end that. So that is the Rimas Dissolutas. It is a strict poetic form in the sense that your stanzas are all the same, have to have the same line, same syllable count. Then you have to have at least 2 stanzas because the rhyme scheme is line 1 in every stanza is the same rhyme. Line 2 is the same rhyme through all the stanzas. And then the envoy is up to you. That's optional. But if you do that, you want to use half of the stanza line count and use the rhyme scheme towards the end. All right. Thanks for coming to class today, and I can't wait to read what you guys write today.